Hey, I'm Steve Grace, TurkeyBowMaster. I want to give you one of my tips for building a good solid turkey arrow. Now, the arrow I'm using just happens to be a gold tip 250 Hunter, and I'm tipping it with the Rockets Tomahawk. Now, you can't buy these anymore, but you can buy something similar. And I'm going to go over the thought process behind my arrow build. Now, the inserts I'm using a 100 grain brass insert, and I'm using a 50 grain adder that screws into the back of it. Screws in like that, both of them glue in together, and that gives me what this scale says. Between the broadhead and this insert, I've got 300 grains up front. So that gives me a lot of punch to punch this big, humongous tomahawk through a turkey's vitals. And the vitals are so covered by so much armor. To start with, you got to get through this tough wing, and it is extremely tough. And what happens with when you're trying to penetrate a wing is these feathers are so tough, and when you start cutting through, they bend and they actually pinch on the blade. It's like anybody's ever cut any wood, tried to cut a 2x4 in two. If it pinches on the blade, it's gonna kick back and kick out, and it's really got a lot of force. So as you're cutting through these wings, before you get all the way through them, they're folding and pinching on the blade and grabbing. They're also giving, because these aren't solid. They're against feathers that's underneath the wing, and they're on a turkey, you know, an animal that only weighs 18-20 pounds. So the whole thing gives, and it's like a boxer riding a punch. It just absorbs the energy. So you need a lot of energy. I tell people all the time, it's when you set up for turkeys, you need to be setting up like for a Cape buffalo. And they look at me like I'm crazy, but I'm totally telling the truth about that. You need to shoot a lot of energy. And but anyway, another thought process behind what I do is on this mechanical, and it's just very difficult to get the size you need to really devastate a turkey unless you do shoot a mechanical. Well, this type has such a what I call a wing, what actually triggers it to open. It's so small that you can actually a lot of times go through the wing butt without only cutting maybe one feather, versus a wide broadhead or a broadhead that's deployed on impact. You might have to cut 6 or 7 because they're really tight. You look underneath, they're really tight together. If you hit in the wrong spot, you could actually have to cut through 6 or 7, and they're biting, they're pinching on the blades, they're stopping that arrow, and we've actually had broadhead just bounce off of that wing. So with this system, with such a small surface area of cut when it is closed, and I sharpen these tips too. They don't come sharpened. I have them razor sharp so that I'm cutting on my way in, and I put a couple of rubber bands right up at the front that delays deployment. And this broadhead will usually be in about the length of the broadhead before it really starts getting open, and by the time it gets to the vital cavity, it'll be fully open, and it's just totally devastating. It's 3.5 inches. It's just huge. I've killed turkeys where I didn't even hit them in the vitals, and recovered them pretty easy, because it just does too much damage to breast tissue and legs if you hit low. But it takes a lot of punch to get it through. That's the reason I add the 100 grain brass with a 50 grain adder. And the head itself weighs 150, so I got 300 up front. I'm pushing it on a 70-pound bow, and a very stiff arrow, and I think I've just got a real good turkey killing system here. Now, on my recurve, and maybe I'll do a recurve arrow build, I'm undecided about that recurve exactly what I want to shoot. Like I said, those wider heads, if you do hit the wing butt, you have trouble getting through there, but you need a wider head for the recurve. I've even considered maybe cutting these down a little bit, and where they don't deploy quite as quick, and trying these on the Recurve. I just really don't know which direction I want to go. I want to have a big head, but I want to be able to make it to the vitals with it. So I'll do a little trial and error. I'm gonna make one of my own broadheads for the Recurve. I'm gonna modify it. I think a Just Nasty. I'm gonna modify it with a cut on contact tip, and I think that might work real well. So we're just gonna try things with it, and if I shoot well with it, I'm gonna show you what I find out about it. But in the meantime, I'll be killing some turkeys with a compound too. So we'll just see how the season plays out.